Welcome, Gaston County, to another episode of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we are coming to you from the worldwide headquarters of GSM Services right here in Gastonia, and we are looking forward to having some great discussions in the coming weeks and months. We feel there's enough negativity out there right now, and we believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. Today, we are talking about Rotary, and specifically the Rotary Club of Gastonia, and we are lucky to have two very active Gastonia Rotarians. We have Brent Messer, who is the current president of the Rotary Club of Gastonia, and Vincent Cherry, who is the immediate past president of the very same club. So, full disclosure, I am a member of the same club, and I've known these two guys for a very long time, and that's possibly one of the reasons they're here, but we won't get into too much detail with that. So it's great to have you guys, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So first, we're going to get right to it. Can you, each of you just, I'll start with Vinny. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Stephen. I'm a Gastonia native and resident. I've been here most of my life. I'm a certified financial planner with New South Wealth Management, and I love serving the community, both through Rotary and the work that I do.
Excellent. Mr. Messer?
And my name is Brent Messer, also a native off of North New Hope Road, off of Alton Road on the way to the landfill. But grew up here, went to North Gaston, eventually to Appalachian State, the Switzerland of universities in North Carolina. And
that's good.
Ended up as an art student, turned into a jeweler. And so I have a small business that owns me, Facet Foundry Jewelry Studio, and I've been going on about 29 years. So really enjoyed being involved in the community, and Rotary has been great for helping me to get more involved in the community and help to give back through Rotary.
All right, well, thanks for sharing a little bit there, guys. Brent, come back to you. How did you end up at the Rotary Club? A member of the Rotary Club of Gastonia, and then how did you end up being the current president?
Well, like a lot of Rotarians, it started out with having a small business. Thought, well, it'd be a way to connect with people, to network. Was not far from the location that was the City Club, and at the time I was located in the building with Milano's restaurant, and then moved to a location that was directly in front of the City Club, and so it was very convenient. And I think that's when I was asked to be part of Sergeant of Arms with Stephen, because all I had to do was walk across the parking lot.
That's right.
Yeah. And Stephen had been doing Sergeant of Arms for, about 57 years?
It was a long time, yes. But it was good, though. So how'd you end up being president?
Well, there came a time where, I was seeing all these great people in front of me being president, and being in the club for several years. At that time, I thought, well, it was getting to be my turn, that I needed to step up and do my part and do what I could to help lead the club. So I guess I kind of felt that there was an obligation. I wasn't just going to sit on the sidelines.
And I guess so it's April, almost May, so you're getting very close to the coveted past president's pin and badge. So just hold out a couple more months, you'll be there.
Well, the way I equate it, believe it or not, I know you guys are runners, but in school I was a runner. And doing the 400-yard race, sprinting to that first curve, and you're running down the stretch, and you're in that second curve, and, oh, man, legs are starting to turn into rubber, and then they're turning into jelly. Yeah. So I'm a bit at that stage.
Well, it's not far to the finish line, and you'll be
hold on.
You'll be in an elite club of those who have survived the presidency of the Rotary Club of Gastonia. Vinny, how did you end up at becoming a member of the Rotary Club?
Yeah, so my dad was a Rotarian when I was in high school and in college, so I had a good awareness of what the club was and Rotary in general. in my past careers didn't give me a chance to be able to participate, but becoming a planner the way that I am, being more locally based, it gives me the opportunity to be close by, and I always wanted to be able to participate in things like Rotary and other organizations to give back to the community, and like Brent said, have a chance to network and get to know other business owners. So it was a great opportunity. I started in 2013. Been going strong ever since, and I love it. It's great.
Yeah, that might have been one of the quickest ascensions to president in our club when you look at the overall longevity in the club. So how did you, I'm not sure I want to ask this question, how did you end up becoming president of the club?
Well, probably the best way to put it is that I have a hard time saying no. Just being an active member in the club, like a lot of the other things that I do, I always think if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability. So I'd take it as a compliment that they felt confident enough in me to ask me to be president. And yeah, like I said, I didn't say no, so I kept the wheels on the bus long enough to be president through my 12 months.
Well, I think that's a good point overall. Is that's often how things get done in the community, right? Is somebody has to say yes, and why not you? So
that's right.
I think that's a good segue into talking about Rotary in general. So let's kind of get into how why is Rotary so great, and what does it add to our community? So kind of maybe Vinny, start with you. How do you view the mission and the purpose of Rotary, and just from your perspective?
The motto of Rotary as an overall organization is service above self. And I really have taken personally that on as my kind of mission in doing what I do for my family, for my church, for Rotary, is to give it my all, to make myself second or third, to make it the important piece of what I'm doing to serve our community, serve the club. It really is, the focus of what we do as a club is to better whatever it is that we're involved in, the community, our world, on all the different platforms that we take on, which are many, but to serve those that we can to improve everything that we're involved in.
It's a terrific answer.
Yeah, well
Brent,
said, Vinny.
Anything to add to that?
Well, I was going to say, started out wanting to network, but I think a lot of members start that way. Probably most do, but they end up at some point becoming, instead of a member of a Rotary Club, they become Rotarians. And
I agree.
We drink the Kool-Aid and are all in to help with this great group of people. I mean, you've got members who are leaders in their fields or their companies, and they know how to do things. They know how to make things happen. And so when you get all that willpower, those skills, those talents, those leadership skills together, you can really make things happen. And not just the local community, but with Rotary, it's the worldwide community. So it's just a great organization. I love the fact that Rotary is international, and it crosses boundaries. It crosses political boundaries, crosses religious boundaries, and everybody, like Vinny says, it's service above self, and finding a way to improve this world that we live in.
Yeah, I think that's a great description of kind of my own experience with Rotary as well, which started officially, I guess this will be 20 years later this year. So so many things that Rotary has done locally and also internationally. And I want to kind of get into some of those specific things that Rotary has done. But first I want to talk about Rotary in Gaston County. How many, obviously I'm a little biased about our club and the Rotary Club of Gastonia, but I want to make sure we touch on all the other clubs here in Gaston County as well. So how many clubs are there in Gaston County currently?
Well, you're going to have, and these all came out of our club. Mm-hmm. We came out of the Charlotte Club. Okay, so you've got Cherryville, Belmont, Mount Holly, the Gastonia East Rotary Club, right, that was part of our 50th anniversary project, And then you've got the breakfast club, and then the evening club, which is, I guess, probably the most recent club that came out of our club.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be president when that club was chartered, so I got to take credit for a lot of other people doing work, which is what often happens when you're president, when you have a good group of people. So the point there is just that, we're specifically kind of talking about Rotary International and the Rotary Club of Gastonia, but there's so many other ties to Gaston County with the other clubs that are here in the county and the good work that we're doing. And plus, we may get into some of these, but some of the work that's been done over the years with a lot of these clubs locally collaborating with each other. So, Brent, I'll stay with you. Can you kind of talk about some of these, maybe some of the specific projects or initiatives that maybe we've done here locally or Rotary has involved with here locally, but also from an international perspective?
Well, our club is over 100 years old. Our centennial celebration has been delayed a little bit by the COVID. So when we have it, it may be centennial +2. So we've been around a long time. And one of the very first projects that our club got involved in was the creation of Camp Rotary. And that then changed. Change happens. We're in the middle of change. But it changed in 1924 when a guy moved into town and joined the Rotary Club, a guy named Bud Shield. Okay? So here's Bud Shield, who's got a passion for Boy Scouts. And so he wanted to grow scouting. And the Rotary Club at that time was all in. And so they eventually changed Camp Rotary to a Boy Scout camp. Well, then that changed after, I guess, Shield camp was started, went to the Girl Scouts. So that was one of the first big projects there. And then along the way, there were other things. I think the projects and things we got behind have really, picked up over the, I guess, more the modern era of our Rotary Club. Some things like Operation Christmas, which started out treating the kids at the orthopedic hospital, which was started by one of our founding Rotary members, R.B. Babington, got behind creation of the North Carolina Orthopedic Hospital that serviced polio patients, a lot of them when that time came. But I guess the most recent projects, when I first joined, we were kind of in the middle of raising money for the pavilion. And that's where our club said, we need to do something about downtown. When I was a little kid, I came downtown, shopped with my mom. It was a bustling place, people all over the sidewalks, the Christmas parade, on Main Street. It was just a great experience being uptown. Well, it died, basically. And so our club said, hey, how can we be a leader to be a spark for downtown? And they joined with the other clubs in creating the pavilion, which has become kind of like a little town square. So you've got that that started, and then another big project that's been ongoing is the Rotary Community Garden that was started when Will Current was president. And Vinny, you've been really involved in that too. You were on the board. You want to share the first project about that?
That was the first project when I came on board, and you talk about getting involved. Will tapped me, hey, I mentioned that I like gardening. So he said, okay, and you're a financial guy. You be our treasurer. So we did that and getting the 501c3 off the ground. And that's been a great project. It's its own organization now.
Right.
So
that's the beauty of it. It's self-sustaining.
Not affiliated with the club anymore, although it's deeply integrated in that way. But it's its own self-sustaining piece now and provides a great benefit to the community. Like you said, the pavilion. Recently, the restroom project, which is our club's 100th anniversary project. We haven't been able to use it yet because we've been in COVID quarantine the entire time it's been finished. But we look forward to dedicating that. And actually, it's been dedicating, but being able to use it. But those are some good points.
I'll point out too that Vinny was officially the president when we turned over to our 100th year anniversary. So that was kind of cool to be president when that happened.
That's right. But like you said, I was just the benefactor of being able to be the president after all the groundwork had been laid for putting that in place. I just helped keep the wheels on the bus to get it finished.
Absolutely. And I think if I remember correctly, I'm sure somebody will correct me if I get this wrong, but I think the pavilion was the centennial anniversary of Rotary.
Correct.
When that project was, that's why it's called the Centennial Pavilion and Rotary Pavilion. And I think we collaborated primarily with the East Club and the Breakfast Club, if I remember correctly. But again, I'm sure somebody will correct me when they happen to hear this. But that's a good example of the clubs and the community collaborating on something that now is owned in by the city. And that's a good prototypical project. But the most prototypical project, I think, for Rotary that you guys mentioned was the garden, where we're good at getting things started and laying the foundation, but ultimately we want projects that are sustainable. And that's why the garden is a great example of it's now its own 501c3 and ran by its own board and its own organization. So that's a great example of that. What about more on the international level? You hear a lot about polio and Rotary's involvement. Maybe Brent, can you kind of maybe elaborate a little bit on what, because that's kind of been an ongoing project now since the mid 80s. And people, I'm not sure how many people are aware of Rotary's involvement, and then where does that kind of stand internationally with polio?
Well, that has become a kind of a signature effort of Rotary and Rotary International, and our memory sometimes is short, and so we've been facing this pandemic that we're in now. But if you speak to people who were kids back in the 50s, early 50s, late 40s, early 50s, they were terrified. Their parents were terrified for them to go outside and be with other kids, especially during the summer. And polio is a disease that is it's transferred by bodily excrements, I should say.
Remember, this is a family podcast.
Well, I'm cleaning it up. I am. But anyway, so where kids would get it would be like in the swimming holes, the pools, the ponds, the things like that, where kids do what kids do when they're swimming, And so that would be one way that it would transfer from one person to another. So polio, Rotary got behind the effort back in the mid to late 80s, and at that time, it was affecting millions of people at it. Let's see, I've got my little cheat sheets here. But, right now they've been raising money for vaccines, and it protects more than 2.5 billion children in 122 countries. And it has gone from being a worldwide disease, including the United States, to being really isolated in a couple areas, in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And that is, I think it would have been eradicated several years ago if not for the wars and turmoil.
Political unrest is an issue.
Political unrest. Also, just like you hear some of it here now, they would say that, well, this polio vaccine was some kind of poison or something that the West was trying to put upon their kids. A lot of disinformation. But they're making great progress, and the latest report is that as far as the wild polio virus, there's been one case reported in Pakistan in 2021 so far.
Yeah, I know we've gone from in the 30-plus years that Rotary has been working on. Let me be clear, it's not just Rotary. They've partnered with a lot of other organizations as well, and they've gotten support from organizations like the Gates Foundation. But I know they've gone from, as you said, either hundreds of thousands or millions of cases down to tens of cases each year now. Right. And I know even since when I joined the club, I guess India and Nigeria have been removed off of that list. in the last 5 or 6 years.
And Nigeria was just last year, as far as being removed from the continent of Africa.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you. And then I've often been asked why does it still take so much money? Well, guess what? There's still millions of kids being born in areas of the world that have difficulty accessing quality health care. So we still have to work to continue to get that vaccine out to these kids to keep it in check, because unfortunately it only takes a plane ride or a visit across a border for something to crop up again. So that's just something that's probably worth looking into as well if you're really interested on how you can help with that. That's a big initiative for Rotary International.
And if I could add to that, Stephen, one neat thing, and people have heard of this name, but Rotary partnered up with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they're matching the money that comes out of Rotary for this. And it's something I really didn't wrap my mind around, that you're having to inoculate these millions of children every year,
right?
Every year as they get to a certain age. So it's an ongoing effort, but at the latest district conference, someone's talking about Rotary and initiatives like this. It's not a project. It's a program.
Yeah.
And if you ask, project, you have an end date. Well, the end date for the polio effort, the effort to eradicate polio, the end date will be when it's eradicated.
Right. When there's no new cases, correct?
Yeah.
At all.
Right.
So that's a good one. That's a great example of kind of Rotary on an international level. So let's kind of go back to getting specific here for you guys. Can you give me, this may be a hard question, but can you give me one thing that I'll start with you, Vinny, you're most proud of accomplishing or being involved with, or whatever the case may be, since you've been part of Rotary?
Maybe because it has been, relative to you guys, a shorter timeline. The Rotary Garden, seeing it from inception and idea. I'll give credit to Will Current. He's the one that came up with the idea. Fantastic. Seeing it from scratch, us taking that vacant lot and moving it from what it was to what it has now become, a sustainable, productive garden and effort that brings in people from all over the community and different organizations to thrive as well as it has. That's really encouraging to me to see, one, what our community can do, and just what the opportunities in the future are for other things that haven't even been born yet.
Absolutely. I agree. It's a terrific project. What about you, Brent?
Well, this was an international project that was underway or just starting underway when I joined the club, and I've been, I think it's been about 17 years now, something like that. But the Honduras project, that was, to me, such an amazing thing. And it's an example of where an idea from one or two people can just grow and affect so many lives. And we had member Don Warren, and he partnered up with another member, Rob Collis, who helped lead the effort. And there were a lot of other Rotarians in this effort. But they had, through their church, I think at Parkwood, there were some missionaries down there. And they had observed in this area of Honduras where you had these indigenous people, the Chortí Indians, they called them. And for their water, they noticed they're there and they see this little pond, and pigs are walking around the little pond, Well, here a little bit later, here comes kids with containers, filling up containers in that same pond to carry this water 2 hours back to home to drink. Well, not surprisingly, half the kids were dying from these waterborne illnesses. So Don Warren got a passion for this, and how can our club, through Rotary and the Rotary Foundation, tackle this problem? And so they did. They approached a partnering Rotary Club in Copan Ruinas, which is near that area, the closest Rotary Club there, and basically provided clean water by having the people put pipes to streams and cisterns or containers up on the mountains to then have water pressure to go down to the villages. Well, it started from like 1 or 2 villages to multiple villages, dozens of villages. It morphed into, we had another Rotarian, Mary Harris, at the time, who was the director at Habitat. They saw that there were these, the housing was basically mud and stick huts with thatched roofs, and this little bug would drop out of the thatched roofs. And it would get on people and be a parasite that would get in their system, their bloodstream. Well, a lot of the people, when they get to be in their 30s, they would die from this heart disease caused by this parasite. So got Habitat involved in sharing part of the money coming into local Habitat to help build new, like little small concrete houses with metal roofs. Sometimes the house was in good enough shape, they just put a metal roof on it. But because of these efforts of Don Warren and Rob Collis being, I call it the pebble dropping in the pond.
Sure.
And then all the Rotary members of our club, and then through the power of the Rotary Foundation and the grant system, providing money, lives were changed, lives were saved. It even morphed into a guy donated school equipment down there. So it was just incredible. As I say, there are people living today down there who would not be alive if it were not for the efforts of this club.
Yeah, no question. And I have to share, maybe the best thing I got to do when I was president was actually take a trip down there with Don Warren and Rob Collis. And I got to tell you, Don was treated like a, no pun intended, a mafia kingpin down there. The way he was revered and respected just because of the work that he had done. And that's a good example of a Rotarian. So many projects with any organization or community, you get one person behind it who really is engaged, and that can happen. But that even morphed into a supplying medical equipment too for a new medical clinic that I actually got to see. The building that was in practically in ruins. You know, I'd love to see it again, but the building had been picked out when I happened to be there. So that is a terrific example of some international involvement that our club has been done. And you're correct, there are kids that are alive today that would not be if it wasn't for that club and our club and Don Warren and then being able to partner with the Rotary Club down there in Honduras. So let's kind of those are two great examples. What do each of you envision Rotary and in our club? You know, how does it look the next 5 to 10 years? Vinny, I'll start with you. What do you think it's going to look like?
Well, I think from intentional effort, we're going to continue to be a more diverse group, specifically our club, I'm sure, making strides to broaden who we are as an organization. We'll continue to lead. You know, we're a club made up of leaders, so that'll continue to be the case and come up with new ideas and how we can serve our community. I think probably even more nimble and flexible in how we position ourselves and how we can serve and react to new things that come across, whether it's COVID or international projects, but just being able to try to be creative and nimble in who we are. And probably even a younger club for ourselves, but as a whole, Rotary has a nature of being a little bit older organization, just from people's timelines and how they're able to participate in things. But from intentional efforts, I think they will continue to age younger too.
Yeah, I agree, Vinny. You know, this past year has forced change upon us, and we've had to respond to that. We've had to be nimble. We've had to be creative to continue having our meetings, continue to have our Rotary Club function, and add value to our community in spite of the challenges. But our goals are to become more diverse, have more young people in there. One of the challenges that we have, it's kind of a curse and a blessing to be a 100-year-old club. Okay,
Right.
So, the curse is that change isn't always embraced. You know, because
Oh, yeah.
You've heard it before in other organizations, even your churches. Well, we've never done it like that. Yeah. You know, this is the way we've always done it.
That's a scary phrase, frankly.
Yeah. I like to me, and I've used this here more and more, to me the two most powerful words in the English language are what if. You know, what if we do this?
Sure.
What if we do that? You know.
Correct, yeah, that's good.
So I think that we're going to be having to do a lot of what if thinking to have ourselves be more and more relevant. We can take the good from our traditions, but then find ways to apply them to the challenges that are in front of us. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Vinny, we got to be nimble, and we got to be creative. Yep. You know,
I would add another two-word phrase is, why not?
Yeah,
exactly. What if and why not?
Yeah, to both of your points. Yeah. Generally speaking, across the country, for sure, and in some areas internationally, clubs, organizations like Rotary, are struggling a little to maintain membership and grow membership. Different parts of the world. I mean, Rotary has had a sustained membership, I think, for quite a while, but it's growing in some areas of the world and it's declining in some areas of the world. So for you listeners out there, this is an opportunity to get involved, and not just Rotary, but there's plenty of opportunities in our community to get involved with things like that. So what would you tell somebody? What advice would you give them? Someone wanting to get involved with an organization like Rotary, or any type of service organization. What advice would you give them to how to do that, or how to get started?
I would say first off, just make a visit.
I'm saying just do it.
Well, you know what? Making a visit's even easier now, right? With virtual,
right.
You can do it. From the comfort of your kitchen table.
If you're time pressed, do it via Zoom.
Absolutely.
If possible, do it in person.
We prefer that. We prefer that. Yes.
Yeah. That's the best thing. But it's like anything, you get out of it what you put into it too. So if you want to get the most out of it, get engaged and get involved if you can.
Right. And as far as if you being a member of Rotary, one of our tasks is that we invite other people. Mm-hmm. I mean, just like if you're in a church, well, most members join any organization because they were asked.
That's right.
And learn about what that organization is from the current member. You occasionally have somebody that says, they'll even see that, hey, they're new to the area, there's a Rotary Club, they don't know anybody, but they've been involved in Rotary, and they contact the club and say, hey, I want to visit, and then potentially become a member, of the club. Because this is a person who they're Rotarians first and members of a Rotary Club second. So they're going to give their service above self no matter where they are.
There are a lot of people out there that are Rotarians, and they don't even realize
that's exactly right.
That's a great
Vinny.
point.
That is a great point.
Yeah, my story was real simple. I was actually doing some painting at our church, and with Steve Weitzel, and him and someone else in the room were talking about Rotary, and I started asking a few questions, and next thing I know, he invited me to come, and 10 years later, I was becoming the president the year after he was president. Yep. So Rotary has become a big part of my life. So we're going to come back to a couple Rotary questions, but this is a podcast called Gaston's Great. So we're going to this is what we're kind of calling, we're just making this up as we go along, but we're going to call this the Gaston County Speed Round. So I got a couple Gaston County questions for both of you. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. Start with you, Vinny. Favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
Lemon, hands down. Oh, it's good.
Lemon? I've never tried lemon.
It's good.
Okay.
I'm not even sure. I am stunned for some reason. I didn't even know they had lemon. Lemon ice cream doesn't.
Did you think I would say grape?
I have no idea what you're going to say. Actually, I never know what you're going to say, Vinny. Brent, what about you?
Okay, it's actually a combination. Okay.
Somehow I knew you were going to say that.
Because I got to be creative, okay? So you get a black cherry milkshake with a scoop of chocolate on top.
Okay. So, but it is a milkshake, right?
It's
milkshake for you too, Vinny? Is it?
Sure.
Or whatever?
I'll take whatever.
Okay.
But the great thing about Tony's, it's a twofer because you got the milkshake and you got the lump of ice cream on top.
I might have to call Tony Coletta about this and all this free advertising we're giving him
That's
on
true.
this podcast.
That's true.
Same thing with next question is Sundrop or Cheerwine?
Cherry lemon sundrop made at a
Oh,
fountain
that was very politically correct.
with a lemon in it.
From somewhere
From
specific?
Black's Barbecue,
Okay. And that goes right along with your lemon ice cream.
I guess.
If this was on, if we were videoing this, you could have just seen my eye roll, by the way, toward Vinny.
Yeah, I've had the back off of it, but Diet Sundrop.
Okay.
Oh wow.
I assume somebody named Vinny Cherry would choose Cheerwine, but apparently I'm wrong. So Eastern or Western style North Carolina barbecue?
Brent.
There's no such thing as a bad cooked pig.
Fair enough.
I like them both.
Fair enough.
That's
Vinny?
exactly right. It's whichever is most available to me at that time.
All right.
Now I haven't embraced the. There's another one that's more south of here, but that mustard barbecue sauce down in South
No,
Carolina.
you have to go out of town for that.
Yeah, we don't.
We
don't recognize that
Yeah,
here.
I don't either. That's a.
All right. Favorite Shield Museum exhibit?
The planetarium.
Oh, that's
Not an exhibit necessarily.
well.
It's
No,
ongoing.
we consider
And
that.
the farm.
We
is
consider
there.
that an exhibit for the purposes of this podcast.
Boy, as a kid, the big stuffed animal, or not, I shouldn't say stuffed, but the big
You can say
bears
stuffed.
and all that, whatever. But the taxidermied animals, that was always a thrill there. The planetarium, some of these latest shows, I had to close my eyes because I thought I was going to lose my lunch.
Too realistic.
One of
for you.
those where you're like in a helicopter.
It's like a Disney.
and you're flying.
It's like a
you know?
Disney ride.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God.
All right.
But
Next, this is a really important question, and I had to modify this one for today's podcast slightly. UNC Duke, NC State, or Appalachian?
App State, baby, all the way.
Yeah, that's not even a question. NC State, baby.
Thank you.
Wolfpack. Come on.
I mean, I put this in there because normally all you hear is UNC Duke around here.
We don't
so,
recognize
yeah,
those
we're
other
not.
institutions.
We're gonna keep that question on here, and at least until next week when this podcast is canceled. What is something very few people know about you, Vinny?
I had to think about that.
And I've already asked Tammy, by the way.
I had shoulder length hair in college. That was interesting.
Do we have some photographic proof of that?
Not that you know of.
Did Tammy make you cut that off?
No.
Somehow, that's not a shock to me because you've got a really good head of hair.
I agree.
You do. I mean, you do. Yeah.
Yeah. This episode is going down quick.
Are you hitting on me?
Brent, Brent, you're up.
Well, I had the long hair too, but believe it or not, my hair's getting less and less. But when I was in college, late high school and through college, I did steel work, and so I worked on the top of these water towers, water tanks.
Oh, wow.
Stuff like that, yeah. That's a long climb up that
Yeah, I
ladder.
bet. That's
tell you.
interesting. I'm not sure I
Quick
could do
way
that one.
down too. Oh man.
Yeah.
How about
if my mother only knew what I did.
Yeah, some things are better left for mothers not to know.
Yeah.
How about a recent book or article or blog or something that you've read that you would recommend?
Oh, you put me on the spot because it's been a while since I've read.
Reading is healthy.
I know it is.
Do you still read, Stephen?
Affirmative.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. Go ahead, Vinny.
I have a couple offerings. One is Freed to Lead. It's an F3 book. If you've ever heard of F3, you should look into having that on the podcast too.
Well, that's a good promo for one of our. I can assure you, F3 will be on one of our future podcasts. Yeah.
And another one, a dear friend of mine gave me. It's called Make Your Bed.
Make your bed. Yes.
Yeah.
Dear friend being Stephen Long.
Yes. It's a good one. Good short read.
Yep.
I like history, and one of the last two books related to that I really enjoyed was one called Lawrence in Arabia, not Lawrence of Arabia, but Lawrence in Arabia. And it's the true story of that time period. And then another one that's kind of a companion to that, different author, but the rise and fall of the Ottoman Empire.
Oh, okay. I'm sure that's interesting.
But when you read those books, it kind of explains a lot of why the Middle East is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another one that was, I can't recall her name of the author, but it was the life of Muhammad, more of a historical perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, those guys are it's a good few titles for maybe our listeners to go check out. So we're getting close to wrapping this up. So kind of two more specific questions. I'm going to combine this question. First is you may just have to reiterate something you've already shared, but kind of can you share why is Gaston County better because Rotary is here? Vinny?
Why is Gaston County better because Rotary is here?
Besides the two of you, of course.
Sure. Well, I think obviously the service that we provide, but the environment and how it helps cultivate people who are already Rotarians, like we were saying, whether they realize it or not, to become better, either people, community servants, even better husbands, parents, just in how we approach being who we are as people.
Well, that's very good. Brent?
I would ditto that and add to it that a lot of things happen. The communication that's within a Rotary Club around the table, when you've got judges, district attorneys, police chiefs, the directors of nonprofits, business owners, and all, and they're in that room, they're sitting around the table, and they may have a what-if idea, or they have something that's affecting their business profession, and they can throw ideas off. And a lot of problems can get solved, and a lot of initiatives can get launched from just bringing all that diverse group of people together in one room. I think there's a lot of magic that happens. And I think that's one reason why everybody is craving to come back to the in-person meetings, because they want that serendipity that can happen between the members meeting together.
That's a great point. It's almost like an incubator.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
That's a pretty big word, Vinny.
Incubate.
I read
I'm
that
proud
one
of you.
time.
I'm proud of you.
So that was like a four syllable word.
Yeah, that is four, I guess.
Yeah,
So
I had to count.
all right, we're gonna finish this up because the 7 listeners we started with are down to 2. So is there anything else you guys would like to share specifically about Rotary or anything in general before we kind of finish up, or some questions that I haven't asked that would be worth talking about? And there may not be.
I would say just for those who aren't experienced in what Rotary is, give it a try. And it's all over the place, so it's convenient to where you are and your schedule a lot of times. Just give it a try.
Oh yeah, and it's not just an invitation to our club.
That's right. That's what I meant.
Because the word for this year is opportunity. The theme is Rotary opens opportunity. So there's opportunity.
Or doors. I'm sorry.
Yeah, or doors. I think the theme this year should be figure it out.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's a good That's a good
fair
point for so many things. How would specifically? How would somebody? Where would they go, or how would they find out specific information about our club, Rotary International, or where can they find that information?
Well, gosh, there's several different websites.
Rotary.org.
Rotary.org. There's
Rotary Club of Gastonia.
the Rotary Club of Gastonia.
Is that's .com, isn't it?
I don't know.
Maybe dot something.
We have a Facebook page, I think, don't we?
Yeah.
Is it still active?
Yeah, and we're in District 7680. They've got a website. Everybody's got a website, man.
Okay.
And if you come across somebody who is a Rotarian, latch on to them, ask questions and all. But I'd like to add one thing though.
Sure.
This is about our community in general. All of us here are natives of Gaston County, and I'm a little older than you guys, but growing up, Gaston County was made fun of. Gastonia, a bunch of lint heads and all, and my grandparents worked in the mills and all, so heard all the negative stuff that come from the other side of the river. Well, that has flipped, and Gaston County is the place to be. And in my business, I see more and more people moving from the other side of the river to Gastonia and Gaston County, people coming from Charlotte to shop here. And we have got a great thing going on, not just because of the region we're in, but because of the people in Gaston County. People are coming here for that. They're coming here for the schools. We are poised for a tremendous amount of growth. And it's a great place to be in the past, but also now and in the future. It's only going to get better.
I don't know that I could have said it any better, Brent, but that's exactly one of the reasons that we are attempting to have this podcast, so we can get that word out. And of course, as of a couple months ago, Charlotte is officially the gateway to Gastonia.
That is right. I was so stoked when I saw that.
All right. Well, listen, guys. This has been fantastic. I can't thank you enough for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Stephen.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all you do for our community.
Absolutely.
Well, you're very welcome, and we will keep at it. So, for you listeners out there, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. I don't know at the beginning I said this is actually episode number 3 of many, many more to come, we hope. Please spread the word if you can about this, and please don't hesitate to contact us here at podcast@gastonsgreat.com. That's podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at our website, gastonsgreat.com, and you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also find us and subscribe on most podcast services such as iTunes, Spotify, and the Google Play Store. So many thanks to our guests today, Brent Messer and Vincent Cherry from the Rotary Club of Gastonia. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.